everyone. I am Associate Pastor Mike Gannaway of Upper Room Ministries. So glad you've joined us for today's teaching on the prophecies of the Bible, which have come to pass and which have yet to come to pass. We were in Zechariah chapter 8 when we finished up last session. So let's actually begin there in chapter 8 for today. Okay. Chapter 8, verse 1. Again the word of the Lord of hosts came to me, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I was jealous for Zion with great jealousy, and I was jealous for her with great fury. Thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of the Lord hosts, the holy mountain. That's prophecy 29:52. This is a prophecy of the new millennium of the Messiah, who is, after all, God, dwelling in Jerusalem, where he will reign. Continuing on in verse 4, prophecy 29:53. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, and every man with his staff in his hand for every age, and the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of these people in these days, should it also be marvelous in my eyes, say the Lord of hosts. Now, this here is a description of what the millennial kingdom, the millennial city, shall look like. There will be young and old men and women, men and women of all ages, as well as boys and girls. Therefore, humans will keep on marrying and having children in this millennial kingdom. Verses 7 and 8, prophecy 29:54. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will save my people from the east country and from the west country, and I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God in truth and in righteousness. So again, this is the regathering of Israel in its land that God had chosen for them. It's something we've been seeing for the last few decades, this return of Israelites to Israel. Israel is a nation, and more and more Jews are returning there to the land which they know is their homeland. Okay. All right. Continuing on. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, let your hands be strong, ye that hear in these days these words by the mouth of the prophets, which were in the day that the foundation of the house of the Lord of hosts was laid, that the temple might be built. For before these days there was no hire for man, nor any hire for beast, neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. For I set all men everyone against his neighbor. But now I will not be unto the residue of this people as in the former days, saith the Lord of hosts. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their dew. And I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all things. And it shall pass that as ye were accursed among the heathen, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so will I save you, and ye will be a blessing. Fear not, but let your hands be strong. This is prophecy 29:55. So this is again speaking to the future. This is speaking to the remnant that would eventually come out of Babylon, and God is saying to them, "I will not treat you with judgment, as did your previous generations, your forefathers, but you will be prosperous and shall be fruitful." This is something that did indeed come to pass, as the temple and the walls were rebuilt and fortified. Of course, as we all know, generations later, they were again in rebellion towards God, and again they were dispersed when the Romans invaded in 70 AD. Okay. All right. Let's skip down to verses 18 and 19. And the word of the Lord of hosts came unto me, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th. There are 4 fasts of Israel. And the fast of the 10th shall be to the house of Judah joy and gladness, and cheerful feasts. Therefore, love truth and peace. This is a prediction that the 4 feasts will be a time of time of love and truth. Simply a result of the prosperity that God showed the remnant of Israel upon their return from exile. Okay, that is fulfilled. This next prophecy has yet to come to pass. It says, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, it shall yet come to pass that there shall come people and the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, Let us go speedily to pray before the Lord, and to seek the Lord of hosts. I will also go. Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem, and to pray before the Lord. This again is a prophecy of the millennial kingdom, where Jerusalem shall be the center of the religious world, the spiritual world, whatever you want to call it. Nevertheless, it will be where many nations go to pray. It will not be Mecca. No, it shall be Jerusalem. Right. Verse 23, prophecy 29:58. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass, meaning it's unfulfilled, that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, of the language of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, We will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. So, for every Jew, there will be 10 men of Gentile nations holding on to the skirts, saying, We shall go with you to worship your God. Obviously, that's not happening worldwide yet. Of course, it will once Jerusalem becomes established as the center of the religious world in the millennial kingdom. Chapter 9. Prophecy 29:59. The burden of the word of the Lord in the land of Hadrach and Damascus shall be the rest thereof, when the eyes of man, as all the tribes of Israel, shall be toward the Lord. And Hamath shall border thereby Tyrus and Zidon, though it be very wise. This is a prophecy of the deliverance of the enemies of Israel. I believe this is an unfulfilled prophecy for the millennial kingdom, though I'm not entirely sure. Same thing with verses 3 and 4, prophecy 29:60. And Tyrus did build herself a stronghold, and heaped up silver as the dust, and fine gold as the mire of the streets. Behold, the Lord will cast her out, and make her smite her power in the sea, and she shall be devoured with fire. Okay. Verse 5, prophecies 29:61 through 63. There are 3 prophecies in this one. Ashkelon shall see it in fear. Gaza shall also see it and be very sorrowful. That's prophecy 1. And Ekron, for her expectation, shall be ashamed, and the king shall perish from Gaza. That's 2. And finally, and Ashkelon shall not be inhabited. That's 3. Verse 6. And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off pride from the Philistines. That's prophecy 29:64. And I will take and continuing on, prophecy 29:64. And I will take away his blood out of his mouth, and his abominations from between his teeth. But he remaineth, even he shall be our God, as he shall be a governor in Judah, and Ekron as a Jebusite. That's prophecy 29:65. Okay. Verse 8. And I will encamp about mine house, because of him, the Antichrist, that passeth by, and because of him that returneth, and no oppressor shall pass through them any more, for now I have seen with mine eyes. That's prophecy 29:66. All right. These next few prophecies are about the first coming of the Messiah. Prophecy 29:67, verse 9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just, and having salvation, lowly, riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. That, of course, refers to the Messiah's entry on a donkey on Palm Sunday. Yes, the palm branches were laid down for the donkey. That prophecy fulfilled. Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 through 11. Right. Okay, next is about the Messiah's second coming. And I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the horse of Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall speak peace unto the heathen, and his dominion shall be from sea to sea, even from the river, even to the ends of the earth. Prophecy 29:68. That talks about the Messiah's, how big the Messiah's dominion will be. Obviously, that won't happen until the second coming. Right. Then verses 11 through 12. As for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit, wherein there is no water. Turn you to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope, even to the day that I do declare, that I will render double unto thee. All right. These are, apparently there will be prisoners, captives. They're called prisoners of hope. And most likely, these are around the time of the millennium, where God will render double unto thee. It is prophesied how a remnant of Israel will be saved and recognize Jesus as their Messiah. Perhaps this is them. I'm not sure. But there will be prisoners of hope that will be delivered and rendered doubled unto them by God. Okay, prophecy 2970, verses 13 through 17. Let's read. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man. Now look what it says, O Greece. So this refers to the Grecian Empire at some point being revived, and will undoubtedly be siding with the Antichrist. What that Grecian Empire will look like, I guess that remains to be seen. But it has been foretold. And the Lord shall be seen over them, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning, and the Lord God shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. The Lord of hosts shall defend them, and they shall devour and subdue and sling stones, and they shall drink and make a noise as through wine. And they shall be filled like bowls, and as the corners of the altar. And the Lord their God shall save them in that day as the flock of his people, for they shall be as the stones of a crown, lifted up as an ensign upon his land. For how great is his goodness, and how great is his beauty. Corn shall make the young men cheerful, and new wine the maids. Again, that's prophecy 2970. Chapter 10. Verses 1 and 2. Ask ye of the Lord rain in the time of the latter rain. So here, Zechariah, or shall we say God through Zechariah saying, ask for rain during a rainy season. Yeah, he's just saying, ask for more. So the Lord shall make bright clouds and give them showers of rain to every one grass in the field. Okay, so this is talking about and just an absolute abundance of rain. Whether it may be the material, physical rain, it may be the spiritual rain, it may be both. Continuing, it says, for the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie, and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain, therefore they went their way as a flock. They were troubled, because there is no shepherd. Okay? So, ask. So when the rain comes, ask for more. I guess to truly know what is of God, because there are false idols and diviners who speak false dreams and comfort in vain. So, you need more of God's rain. I believe that's the correct interpretation anyway. All right. Prophecy 2972, verses 3, 4, and 5. My anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats, for the Lord of hosts has visited his flock, the house of Judah, and hath made them his goodly horse in battle. Out of him came forth the corner, out of him the nail out of him, the battle bow out of him, every oppressor together. And they shall be as mighty men which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in battle. And they shall fight because the Lord is with them, and the riders on horses shall be confounded. Here, Zechariah prophesies of Judah being made strong against in the fight against Armageddon, and in the fight at Armageddon, I should say. Okay. Verses 6 through 8, prophecy 29:73. And I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them again to place for them, for I have mercy upon them. And they shall be as though I had not cast them off, for I am the Lord their God. And they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad. Their hearts shall rejoice in the Lord. And I will hiss for them and gather them, for I have redeemed them, and they shall increase as they have increased. So, this talks about the future regathering of the house of Judah and the house of Joseph. They were scattered in 70 A.D., but this is again being fulfilled as we speak, as the houses of Israel are returning to Israel, and Israel is certainly growing as a nation, and certainly becoming more and more influential in the world today. Verse 9, prophecy 29:74, and I will sow among them the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. Again, this is talking about the scattering of the Jews into many countries, but they don't forget. But they don't forget the God of Israel. They don't forget they are children of Israel, and turn again means they eventually return. Continuing on, verses 10 through 12, prophecy 29:75, I will bring them again, also out of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them, and he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves of the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away, and I will strengthen them in the Lord, and they shall walk up and down in his name, saith the Lord. All right, so the remnants, shall come out of Assyria and Egypt, and Assyria and Egypt will be brought down come the end times. We actually see the hostility towards Israel in Egypt and Assyria right now in the world news. But in the end, those nations will fall. Chapter 11. Prophecy 29:76. Open thy doors, O Lebanon, that the fire may devour thy cedars. Howl, fir tree, for the cedar has fallen, because the mighty are spoiled. O ye oaks of Bashan, for the forest of the vintage is come down. There is a voice of the howling of the shepherds, for their glory is spoiled, a voice of the roaring of young lions, for the pride of Jordan is spoiled. This describes the falling of many trees in lands such as Lebanon and Jordan and Bashan. This is a foretelling of the Roman invasion of Israel in 70 A.D., which has come to pass. Just the absolute destruction of the plentiful trees of the land. Continuing on in verse 3, it says, "There is a voice of the howling of the shepherds, for their glory is spoiled, a voice of the roaring of young lions." Here, I believe God is addressing the religious leaders of Israel at that time of Roman occupation. Continuing on, "Thus say the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their shepherds pity them not." You know, let's keep this in mind. At the time of Roman oppression, the religious leaders, the Pharisees and Sadducees, also showed their own people of Israel very little pity and sympathy. The people were just in bondage to their role. You know, they had heaped huge burdens upon them, and didn't lift a finger to help them carry it, which Jesus spoke of in the Gospels. So to continue on with that, "For I will no more pity the inhabitants of the land, saith the Lord, but lo, I will deliver the men, every one into his neighbor's hand, and into the hand of his king. They shall smite the land out of their hand. I will not deliver them." This is all prophecy 29:77, talking about the scattering of Israel into the lands of their neighbors, into the hands of their neighbors' kings. And God says, "I shall not deliver them." And that didn't come to pass, as Israel remained a desert for centuries after the Roman disbursement of 70 AD. Okay, continuing on, verse 7, "I will feed the flock of slaughter, even you, O poor the flock. And I took unto me 2 staves, the one I called Beauty, and the other I called Bands, and I fed the flock." So, this is a foretelling of God's 2 staves, 2 staffs. One is Beauty, which is God's favor upon them, and then also Bands, which is union. I mean, at the time of this Roman occupation, God gave the Messiah. He presented the Messiah to them. Verse 8, "3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, and my soul loathed them, and their soul abhorred me." That's prophecy 29:79. These 3 shepherds of Israel who were cut off in a single month are not named, but the reference could be to 3 leaders of Jews in their war with the Romans. They were the last 3 princes of the Asmonean line, John, Simeon, and Eleazar, who died in a brief period during the war. And then in verse 9, "Then I said, I will not feed you, that dieth, let it die, and that is to be cut off, let it be cut off, and let the rest eat every one of the flesh of the other." Prophecy 29:80. Any remnant remaining in Jerusalem just died off, and God just let it die. He withdrew beauty. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and we shall continue in chapter 11 next time.
Let you